Here we go. So let's jump into our very first fruit extract, dried fruit extract.
Okay.
So here we're going to go, jumping right ahead. Yeah. She's like, I got it. Okay, so what is the first fruit extract we're going to make?
Just blueberry vanilla.
A blueberry vanilla extract. And what vanilla beans are we going to use?
Okay, these are some of my favorite beans. This is our Rioja Pompona. It comes from Peru. And these are very, very large.
Look at the size of these things. I mean, is that, let me do a close up here.
The reason I like to use these beans, the flavor for one is, wow.
It's amazing. Look at the size.
And I am not really extracting all of the oils out of here because I'm not waiting 12 months. I'm using this more of an enhancer to my blueberry extract. So instead of just going straight blueberry, I would add vodka and just the blueberries, which you can do if that's what you're looking for. But when I add this Rioja bean in here and I cut it open, I get all that caviar out, and in that time I get to extract some of the oils out of the skins. It makes so much of a difference.
Right.
It enhances it. It just adds that vanilla wonderfulness to it.
So what vanilla extract does in all of our desserts and pastries, and the reason that it has become a thing is it accentuates the different ingredients that are already there. Particularly, it takes away any of the sharpness from eggs. It helps bring out sweetness even in flour and accentuate the sweetness of the sugars that are going in. So vanilla as sort of a binder of ingredients or an enhancer of ingredients, that's what it's been used for years and years, I mean hundreds of years, right? But what we have found is that a vanilla bean inside the extract, when you have like a fruit that is soft and sweet, maybe tart, and then you have like an alcohol that kind of can burn, especially the higher alcohol content ones, the two, when you throw in a vanilla between them, it does exactly what vanilla extract's been doing for hundreds of years in our cooking. It just softens them. It sweetens them. It just accentuates. It's like the blueberry is more blueberry, and the strawberry is more strawberry, and the raspberry is more raspberry.
And there's a hint of vanilla.
And then there's the subtle hint of vanilla.
And then if, with all of those yummy little caviar seeds, you see it.
Yes. So we love using vanilla beans, at least one vanilla bean, 2 vanilla beans in all of our fruit extracts. We think it makes a big difference.
Just as a binder or an enhancer. Another thing I love using this, and maybe we'll do a live later on it, is I have made a strawberry liqueur out of just strawberries and liqueur, and I've tried that. And then I added this pompona bean to it. Hit it out of the park.
Yeah.
Like, that changed everything. It added so much butteriness and softness that it was missing with just the strawberries, and it was delightful for summer. So there's so many things that you can add these little things to. It's awesome.
And not all pomponas are the same. This is the Peruvian pompona. If you got like the Mexican pompona, they're like half the size. They're big and round, but they're shorter. And so it's like depending on the region where they're grown, the species doesn't necessarily mean they all taste the same. Because a planifolia in Indonesia versus a planifolia in Mexico, both planifolias, they taste totally different.
Yeah.
Same thing with pomponas. A pompona from Peru versus a pompona from Mexico, they'll taste different.
Just because of the soil.
Just because of the soils.
Different.
Yep. Yeah. So let's jump in. I think we've given the background on why.
Okay, so this is important when you're doing freeze-dried fruit. As it is with vanilla, you need to weigh the fruit because I wanted to show you that this right here is 1 ounce of blueberries, and it's about 3/4 of a cup. This right here is also 1 ounce of peaches, but it's, as you can see, a little bit more than 1 cup. So if you're measuring it in cups and volume, you're going to miss out. It's not going to be the same amount. So you need to always weigh your fruit just as you weigh your vanilla beans, okay? That part is really important.
Someone's asking the question, are these dehydrated or freeze-dried? We use freeze-dried. We like freeze-dried for a couple of reasons. 1, more moisture is removed in the process. 2, and most importantly, there's not heat that is used in the process of freeze-drying. Everything is frozen solid, so it preserves all the nutrients, flavor compounds, taste. And then the water is removed through a vacuum process, so it keeps sort of the shape and everything intact. A lot of times with dehydrated, they've been superheated, which will change them a little bit. Not all the moisture is removed, so it might be bendy or flexible, which means you're going to be adding. You can now. Let me even say, you can use dehydrated for sure.
And I have, and it turns out great.
We have, and it turns out great. So I'm not saying don't use dehydrated. You can absolutely use dehydrated, but there is more moisture in them. They're going to weigh a little bit more, and so with the freeze dry, we just see that they're a little lighter, more concentration, and the taste to us typically is our favorite. So hopefully that's helpful. You can use both, but freeze dry just seems to be the most consistent.
Yes.
So we're putting in the recipe for fruit is dried fruit is just what you said. It's exactly like our vanilla extract recipes. It's 1 ounce by weight of dried fruit to 8 ounces by volume of spirit. 35% to 50% alcohol. It's the exact same thing. Super easy to do.
Now, oftentimes when you get dehydrated fruit, there'll be a lot of crumbs at the bottom. Use those, measure those, weigh those, because that's just your blueberries being crushed down a little bit. Sometimes, because of the volume, I have to actually crush them down to get them to fit into, whatever jar I'm using. But it's still the same amount of blueberries, it's just in a smaller space. So when you see all those crumbs at the bottom, weigh them and put that in there, because that's just as important as the ones that haven't been crushed.
Some people will ask the question, can you do like a double fold of blueberry or others? So you're going to have a volume issue. So as it relates to crushing, you just have to smash them all down and make sure that they're submerged in the alcohol. Because if you don't, you're not going to have, the alcohol's not going to cover them all.
Sometimes I smash them down when I'm putting them in, or sometimes I let them kind of absorb the alcohol and then I'll muddle down and then push down. Either way is going to be just fine.
Either way works just fine.
Yeah.
So use the crumbs is the point. Every little piece of that fruit, use them. When they're dry, they're brittle. When they're brittle, they break. When they break, they crumble.
Yeah.
It's still a blueberry. Use it. It's still a strawberry.
Yes.
Use it. Don't throw anything away.
Yes.
So.
Okay, so what I do with this huge pompona bean is I usually just cut it right down the middle.
I mean, it's almost hard to cut because there's the caviar is actually falling out as we're cutting this. There's so much inside of these.
And then I just cut it into pieces to make it easy to kind of fit lower into the jar. And I don't get the caviar out. I leave it in there because over time it comes out on its own.
And we're not weighing the bean here. We're not adding 1 ounce of beans. You can put in 1 vanilla bean. We always recommend 2 normal size vanilla beans. But when you're using a pompona, you really only need 1.
Yeah.
I mean, in some cases, these pomponas.
Or half.
Yeah, one bean is a full ounce.
So big,
right.
You could probably make maybe even 3 out of this one, right? Because there's
Exactly.
so much in it. You can go a lot longer with these beans.
Yep.
Okay, so we've got our 1 pompona Rioja bean and 1 ounce of blueberries. And now we're just going to add some vodka.
We're going to add our 8 ounces of vodka.
Already measured it out here to 8 ounces.
It's so easy. And for all of you creative people, you're thinking, well, can you add a cinnamon stick to that? As Michelle does with her blueberry buckle, and it's amazing. Can you add cloves to it? Can you add allspice to it? Yes.
I mean, already. I don't know if you see this. Maybe you could show them.
I'm going to show them here.
So,
look at where they're dried and you add the alcohol.
It's the most beautiful,
look at the color.
Fuchsia color already.
It's already changing. So it's that quick.
You can wait up to a month and then add another 1 ounce of blueberries into it. Try it, see what you think. If you want it a little bit more of a blueberry flavor, then add another ounce of blueberries for 1 additional month would be a total of 3 months.
Think of it just like vanilla beans. This is a single fold blueberry extract. You can do a double fold blueberry. You can do a triple fold blueberry extract.
Yeah.
So what we say is wait about a month. In fact, on some we waited 2, just because life got busy and we forgot to check. And they were great after 2.
I will admit, I made Michelle's blueberry buckle. Right? I forgot about it for 4 months.
Yes.
I'm like, it was in the back of the cupboard and I found it and I'm like, oh my gosh, is it ruined? Oh my goodness, ladies. It was delicious. I didn't take out the cinnamon. I left it in there for 4 cobbler. It is the perfect thing to start out your fall mornings with something warm with your coffee. Michelle, you hit out of the park with that one.
Hit it out of the park. And so on these, we found it seems to us that after about a month, maybe 6 weeks, we don't necessarily notice that the final extract is becoming more blueberry. It's just time to change them out.
But it's not going to ruin anything.
But it's not going to ruin it. That's the point. So if you want to do a double fold or others, then you certainly can. And you can do it over and over and over again until you get like as rich of a blueberry as you want to get. The other thing is when you're straining these, when it's time to change them out and it's finished and you want to take out the old blueberries and put in new blueberries or just begin using it, this is one that we typically will strain because they'll clog like the spout. If you're putting them in a spout, it can be a little lumpy, harder to pour. So when you strain it, make sure you press out all the alcohol that's been absorbed in all the blueberries.
I don't like to put this in like a coffee filter or a very fine mesh because I still want to get some of my vanilla pod seeds through it. So I'll use like a thicker colander, and then I'll put the blueberries and the vanilla and everything in there, and then I'll press it down so I can get all of the liquid out of the blueberries, and then I'll bring out the vanilla beans, and I'll put the vanilla beans back in it. And then I'll put the fresh blueberries back in. But I don't like to use a super fine. If you like your pods in your extract, then don't use a super fine strainer. But if you want it very, very clear, then I would use either a coffee filter or a super fine strainer.
Yep. So there's a few questions that have been asked, and I want to make sure we try to answer them. Jody asked, can you please explain double and triple fold? Look on our website, Jody, under double fold and single fold vanilla extract. It'll explain it. Essentially, 1 ounce of beans to 8 ounces of alcohol is single fold. 2 ounces of beans to 8 ounces of alcohol, same amount of alcohol, double fold, and then you keep doing that. So it's the true numbers are a little less. We just kind of round up to 1 ounce and 2 ounce. So it's the same principle with the fruits. So you can get double the sweetness. And the idea is when you're cooking cake and it calls for a teaspoon of vanilla extract and you want maximum sweetness from your extract, you don't want to double the number of teaspoons because then you're doubling the amount of fluid that goes in your cake recipe, which could alter the way that your cake turns out.
Yeah.
So it's all about maximizing sweetness on top of that teaspoon.
Yeah.
And so a double or a triple or a quadruple fold or these crazy ones that people do, it's all about just maximizing that teaspoon with as much flavor as you possibly can through extraction.
Yeah.
That's
but
double
when you
and
do
triple.
that, you've got to really get your fruit small. You've got to cut the vanilla in small pieces because you're putting so much more fruit and vanilla in it that it's not going to be covered by the alcohol. So you've got to make it as small as possible. You can see in this one that I have some vanilla sticking out, some blueberries. So I'll need to usually I'll let it absorb a little bit, and then I'll just take a knife and make sure I get all my vanilla underneath there, and it'll be just fine. But I usually let it just kind of absorb for a minute, and the vanillas will expand, and then I'll push down the vanilla. Now you'll see blueberries kind of hovering on the top. That's perfectly fine.
Yep. So Connie then says, so wait, you're not changing out the fruit, you're just adding more? No, we are changing out the fruit. If we do like a double fold blueberry or strawberry, we take the old fruit out, strain it, push the alcohol out so we get as much of that back in as we can, and then we'll add fresh fruit. So we do change it out.
But we always put the vanilla back in. Take the old blueberries out, but put the vanilla back in with new blueberries.
There you go. Lori said, and this is great caution, Lori, and thank you. She said, be careful because freeze-dried really absorbs the alcohol. It does, and so it's like a sponge that you're putting in there, which is why straining it is so important. And I don't want to get too technical, but I think this point is really important, okay? When people say top it off, it worries lots of people because they're like, well, wait, if I take out my fruits and my extract, my alcohol content has gone down, now you're telling me to top it off. If I top it off, doesn't that mess up my ingredients? Because now I'm going to have too much alcohol. Well, yes, technically it does, but here's the point. Single fold calls not for 1 ounce, it calls for 0.83 ounces. Again, like I said just previously, everyone in our world just rounds up to 1 ounce. So we've already rounded up almost 20% in terms of the amount of vanilla beans or fruit that you need. So when you're making cacao, when you're making fruits, when you're doing any of these, if you see the content, after you've strained it and pressed all the alcohol out, if you see that you've dropped by 10 or 20%, it's absolutely fine to top it off and just add a little bit more. What you've got is you've got less alcohol at a higher concentration of extract, so topping it off just to increase your alcohol level is okay. Many people say, I don't want to top it off, I just want it like as strong as I can get it. Well, then do that for sure. Like, no need to, but I think those are important points. So a strainer is important when you're draining your fruit. Push all the alcohol out that you can because it will absorb it. And it's okay to top it off a little bit because you're already using a little more than what needs to be used.
Well, and also know that if you're adding anything else to your extract, you're not going to yield exactly 8 ounces because the fruit and the vanilla beans are going to suck in some of that moisture. Even though you're squeezing it all at the end, you're still going to be short. And I've been short 1, sometimes with cacao, 2 ounces from what I started with. And I'm perfectly fine with that. I know that out of 8 ounces I start with, I might get 7 or 6.5. But I know that it's very strong and it's going to be great. Also, if you want to top it off, you can do that as well. It's up to you. This is, again, a craft. It's your art.
There you go. Like Mark says, that is when 0.83 applies. That is exactly it, because that's the real number. Like, the actual recipe is not 1 ounce to 1 cup of spirits. It's 0.83 ounces. It's just been easier for everyone. The whole kind of extract making world just rounds up to 1 ounce, which for all these reasons, we think that's a safe practice. So you're always erring on the side of having a little too much versus not enough. So, Connie Robinson, I wonder if a French press coffee maker would work to strain out the fruit. That's interesting. It probably would, because you want to get as much of that juice out of those fruit pieces as you can.
Yeah, try it.
So maybe give that a try, Connie, and maybe that would be a post. We'd love to see that. Connie, by the way, thank you for so many amazing posts. Like, she's got lots of really good content lately. So we'd love to see that. Give it a shot. Let us know what you think.
Just real quick, of course you want to write what's in here and when you started and what your next instructions are, so you know when you go back to it, when and what and where you need to do it. I have come to the conclusion for me that masking tape works the best because it comes off and I can do my new instructions on and my new dates and just put them on. Whatever you guys use, you figure out what you like, but I love masking tape for all of those reasons, where you can just take it off and then put your new date on, and your original date I usually just put on the bottom. So organizing and making sure you know where this extract is really important.
Yes.
Sometimes I forget to write it down and I have no idea when I started it.
Little masking tape and a Sharpie. That's a job. Mark is like, I don't know if you're a chemist on the side, Mark, but Mark made a very good point, and it's worth talking about. He said the 0.83 only applies to grade B vanilla beans, and he's 100% correct. When you actually look at the FDA standard for single fold extract, it's referring to a drier grade B bean. So when we're using grade A beans, that's another reason to round up to 1 ounce, because there's added moisture content inside the grade A. So that's the other reason that we also round up, just to make sure that we always have enough, by erring on the side of having too many. What you see though is I've seen grade B beans that are almost 25% moisture content, and grade A beans that are just a little above 25% moisture content. So they kind of bump into each other right there. So erring on the side of 1 ounce, I think that's the reason that the industry has, the at-home industry has always just said round up to 1. It works for grade A and grade B. If it's grade B, you've probably got a few too many beans in there, but that's okay. And it's just too hard to remember 0.83 ounces, right?
Unless you want to be exact, then you go for it.
But thanks for bringing that up, Mark. That's a really good, like, we're into kind of the deep stuff now.
I love it.
Yeah, so that's a great point, and that is exactly correct, that it applies. So to round out that whole discussion, when we're talking about freeze-dried fruits, they're totally dry. And so the same logic then would apply to the dry fruit as would apply to the dry bean. So, great. Wow, these questions today. I feel like we have all of our PhD group members with us. This is
awesome.
Fantastic. We love it. Okay, so there's that. And then one other point that I think is important as it relates to the freeze-dried fruit as you get it and you unpack it. When you receive it in your home, don't open it until you're ready to use it because it's very hygroscopic is what they call it. And what that means is it's a sponge. And so if you live in Florida or in places of really high humidity, the second you open that, it's going to start absorbing the humidity out of the air, and they're going to get real sticky.
They're going to be stuck in one big ball.
Yeah. Now, does that mean they're bad? No, not at all. You can still use them and they're fine, but you're just going to start absorbing some of the moisture.
So it's hard to break apart and it's hard to measure. If you got one big ball, then you have to start breaking that apart and then putting it on the scale. And so it's just nice to be able to know, okay, I've got this much fruit. I'm going to use it all right now, separate it into my extracts, and then be done.
Yes, that's exactly it. So just wait until it's time to make the extract before you open it. If they're a little sticky, you're totally fine. It just means you're going to have to break them up a little bit. But the likelihood of them being sticky is a lot less if you don't open them until they're actually ready to be poured in. Like we just opened these peaches like right before we started the show, and they're going to flow very nicely. It'll be a lot easier to use than sticky ones.
Yeah, and also if you have a few extra, I love snacking on them.
Oh, they are a great snack.
They are a wonderful snack. Sometimes I just put them in a little baggie and off I go to wherever I'm going. And
trail mixes.
Yeah.
Like summertime hikes, they're the best to like blend in just as a snack. Side note, yeah. Or, you know, when you're hiking, take a bottle of vodka with you and take some strawberries with you. You know, make some strawberry extract when you're up in the mountains, right? Because that's what you're going to do. There you go.